Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings. Like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
Welcome to First Things First Overtime. A ton of things to get to today, including an instant classic. No other way to describe it. One of the great moments in the history of the great NCAA tournament. And I don't know if anyone's crying for Duke. NFL owners are it's kind of satisfying. Coaches, owners, they're talking out in Arizona. Matt LaFleur on the expectations for the Packers and what needs to happen for them to get over the hump in Green Bay. And the Commanders coming off a last place finish in the tough NFC East last year. But Jaden Daniels is ready to return. Dan Quinn, Willie Cologne's guy, kind enough to join us. That is the aforementioned Willie Cologne. I'm Danny Parkins. Fun sports weekend, Willie.
I was geeked for it.
I heard you were yelling about St. John's in a bar.
Well, you know, I'm a New Yorker. You got to root for the Johnnies.
Got a rep no matter what state you're in.
You got to stay in it, man.
I respect it. I was yelling about UConn in a bar in Milwaukee this weekend. So, we rep wherever we go.
Next time, Johnnies.
Maybe.
Oh, don't start.
Maybe. Lot to get to, so let's begin with the madness. Last night, Braylon Mullins capped off a 19-point comeback, a logo 3, no big deal, sent Duke home. 10 points from Mullins. 3 of them, though, are the ones that we will remember forever. Head coach Dan Hurley still alive in the tournament, still trying to get 3 titles in 4 years. Here is how he was processing that final possession. Take a listen.
I mean, you're torn right there, and you're almost like, and you're just, it's instincts, it's gut instinct. But I think with their size, their length, their ability to switch everything, it felt like the window where you just got to let March Madness take over, March Magic.
The words of a great coach. It was just, all right, it's not exactly how you draw it up, but it's a absolute classic, Willie. What's your reaction to this all-time March moment?
I mean, off the rip, I mean, UConn still has championship DNA, man, and that's the honest to God truth. When you watch this game, first of all, UConn shouldn't be here. Danny Hurley and how he has his team ready to fight, especially through this game, being down 19. I mean, I have a stat right here that I picked out of the weeds. Look at UConn. I mean, when trailing by 10 or more at halftime, they're 1-12 DP.
Yeah.
And that's going into the game. Like,
you're not supposed to win.
You're not supposed to be like
sure.
Duke should be going to the Final Four. But when you turn on the tape and you watch this team in the second half, and they just leaned on Duke. They were persistent. They were aggressive. It was grit. And I think the unsung hero, and I don't know if you will agree with me on this, Alex Karaban. The 5th-year senior, in the moment, think about how big he was in the last 5 minutes of that game. He dives into the bench for a ball, right? He hits a 3 with 1 minute, right? And then on this possession right here, he gets the ball. Mind you, a 5th-year senior, probably one of the most decorated guys in UConn history. He trusts a true freshman.
Yeah, listen,
and Braylon Mullins to hit the game-winning shot.
I thought he was going to shoot because he had finally.
I would have shot it.
He had finally just hit one. Figure you're going to go out with your career. I thought he was going to shoot. Mullins is a better shooter. He gave it up to him from deeper, though.
Right.
But it is an incredible pass from Karaban, and that's who had a brutal game. I mean, 5 points, 3 assists. He was
when he was money against Michigan State.
Oh yeah,
he was great against Michigan State, and then he shows up in this game. I'm like, man, they need you more than ever, and you can't find him on tape. And for him to show up, I thought they won't talk about him when they go back and watch this game, but I thought he was great.
Listen, Karaban was definitely clutch at the end. And I love the tournament because it creates these stories out of nowhere. And now, like Braylon Mullins, he might be a top 10 pick. We'll see where he is in the NBA. He's going to have a long career. Hopefully we have a lot of moments for him in our basketball consciousness. But he is now synonymous with 100%. March Madness. It's just one of those things where, man, you'll remember where you were when you saw the shot if you were watching the game, because the comeback is so ridiculous and the shot is so ridiculous. You had a stat, and I'm like, I see the game, I'm consuming it, and I go to social media, and I thought this tweet like just began to scratch the surface of it. Basically, it's UConn's Braylon Mullins' game winner. It's the deepest game-winning three ever for a team trailing by 2 in the final seconds. So that is a shot to win the game. This is not like Jalen Suggs, which was an all-time shot, but that game's tied. Right?
You didn't even bring up Bryce Drew. You talking about remember where you were. Like, Valparaiso is my
Valparaiso.
Versus Illinois. Like,
Got you.
I remember I was in my mom's living room. Right, with cheese doodles in a bowl. And a Dr. Pepper, and I threw it all over the couch because I couldn't believe what I saw.
So it's the second biggest comeback ever in the Final Four. It's the longest game-winning shot ever for a team that's down 2. It has the added bonus of why we'll remember it because it's against Duke. The nation loves to hate on Duke. If you're not a Duke fan,
I was a Duke fan.
They're the number one. I apologize. they're the number 1 overall seed. They're the more talented team. I think if Duke and UConn play 10 times, I think Duke wins 8 of the 10 times. Right? They were clearly the better team until they weren't. And Mullins had been struggling. He's 0 for 4 from 3 in the game. He's 9 of 53 from 3 in the month of March. Big East tournament and this, combined. And then you learn about the kid's story, and he's like, he's Mr. Indiana basketball who hits the 3 to send his team to the Final Four in his hometown, keeping Duke's chances alive for 3 titles in 4 years. Dan Hurley, the dynasty, first program to do it since UCLA. And listen, Lorenzo Charles and Chris Jenkins, those are like, put them over here because they happen in the title game. Yeah. Right? They're buzzer beaters to win a championship. But Tyus Edney, Jalen Suggs,
iconic.
Christian Laettner, like no matter what happens in Braylon Mullins' basketball life, we will remember this.
But that's why
so great.
That's why you see Danny Hurley in that presser, and he goes, because you can't draw that up, right? Like sometimes
clearly did not.
Sometimes the stars and the magic just has to happen. Coming out of one of the shots I'll never. I think it pretty much paints a picture of why Duke lost. They got beat up. When you see Caden Boozer at the presser and he has a black eye next to his head coach, that explains it, right? Like UConn just showed you're going to have to kill them. They were going to fight you for every second, every minute. They were going to go out crawling and fighting. And I think that's a great compliment to a gritty head coach and Dan Hurley to have that optics. You want a game winner with your opponent beat up and bruised up. I thought it was a masterclass.
Yeah, listen. A lot of the UConn players said after the game that they could tell that Duke was getting tight because they were huddling up a lot. It was in their body language, and they were just incrementally coming back over the course of that second half. You mentioned Caravan. He's obviously, fifth-year senior. He's got
Terrace Reed had a big game too. Well, he had dropped 20. He was ice cold.
He's been a monster the whole tournament. He's an awesome college basketball player. But it's just that UConn just kept coming, and they kept coming. And then Boozer, and that's the other side of it. He's devastated after the game. You hold the ball, you get fouled. You probably win the game. You throw the ball straight up into the air. You probably win the game. That's not on the coach. The guy just didn't execute the pass.
But when you get 16 points off of turnovers, Duke came out in the second half and they laid down. They had 8 turnovers in the second half alone, 13 in total in the game. And so when you talk about what's wrong with Duke, is this game was lost kind of before those last minutes. You know what I mean? You start to see this team.
No, it never comes down to just one play.
Right, but we talk about Duke being like the blue bloods, the elite. Like they looked unhinged. They looked unhinged and it came at them fast.
A young team, man, that'll happen to you in March. Let's talk to John Shire and his side of that moment. Reporters asked after the game, you went into the offseason with a timeout on the last possession with that turnover. What he was going through his mind when the trap came in on Boozer. Take a listen.
We just have to secure it, right? We got it. They had a foul. I was ready for a timeout. and we just got to hold on. And, it's easy to look at that play. I look at every play that happened, especially in that second half. This is not about one play. It's about every play to put us in that position.
We're joined now by our friend here at Fox, college basketball analyst Casey Jacobson with us. Casey, it was an unbelievable game. There's so many angles there, but you just heard Jon Scheyer, so we'll start with the Duke side of it. Did you have any problem with how they handled the late game execution down the stretch there?
Good to be with you guys, first of all.
Thank you.
Second, I don't put this on Jon Scheyer. There's some, dialogue going around like, did Danny Hurley outcoach Jon Scheyer? Danny Hurley's a legend. Jon Scheyer's young. As a former player, I don't put the blame on Jon Scheyer here. This was a lack of execution, and one team simply got tight. There is real pressure. Now, gentlemen, let me let you in on a secret here. I remember I played at Stanford for 3 years. We were a #1 seed in the tournament 2 of my 3 years, and we did not make a Final Four. I have felt that pressure, not only before the tournament started, but before each game. And in the game, when you're a #1 seed and you're getting tested, you can hear the oohs and ahs and the groaning of the crowd. That is a real thing that no player will actually admit to any microphone ever, but it is a real thing. And UConn just gave themselves a chance. They hung in, they kept putting the pressure on Duke to make plays. Couple things I want to get to. One, and Willie talked about it, Terrace Reed was a monster, and he carried this Duke team when they were,
UConn team.
This UConn team, thank you. This UConn team, when they were floundering, UConn was 1 for 18 from 3 to start. And this is a jump shooting team, mind you. The only back to the basket post threat they have is Terrace Reed. That's it. Everybody else wants to shoot threes, including Caravan and Mullen and Solo Ball. Those guys couldn't hit anything. The fact that they were even still in this game at all, thank you to Terrace Reed. And then you go to the last play, and here's what I want to talk about a little bit here with the Braylon Mullins, Alex Caravan thing. Okay, Braylon Mullins has not had a good shooting tournament. You guys showed the graphic right before I came on. He was 4 for 23 from 3 in the tournament before this shot. He gets the deflection and he's like, I don't want it. I'm going to throw this ball up because I don't have a rhythm. My shot's not going in. He throws it up to Alex Caravan, who had hit a 3 earlier, a big, massive 3. And then Caravan shovels it back to Braylon Mullins, which is, by the way, the right play. But this is what I want to talk about. As a shooter, if you are struggling with confidence, if you're open and you have time, that doubt sinks in. When you have no time, when the shot clock is winding down or the game clock is winding down and you know you have nobody else to throw the ball to, this has to go up, then all thinking goes out the window and you just launch one. And that's what happened here with Braylon Mullins. I actually think that if they ran a play and he was wide open, he would have felt more pressure than the 30-footer he launched and made in this game.
So I think that point about the shooting is so interesting, but I wonder if, in your experience, if it ever could apply to a coach. Because listen, I do not think it's on Scheyer for the last possession. They only had 4 buckets in the last 8 minutes. Only one of them was assisted. They clearly got tight. You'd like to think the coach could have an impact there. And it's hard for me to not think about, Casey, and maybe that's not fair, this game and last year's game. Like the collapse with Houston. And to be clear, I absolutely think Jon Scheyer will win a title and maybe multiple titles at Duke. If you keep getting Cooper Flagg and Konkanippel and Boozer and you get all of that talent there, and he's got 3 ACC tournament championships already, 27 wins every year, he's off to one of the great starts to a coaching career ever. But if you blow this lead against UConn in the Elite Eight, and then you're up 7 with 1:15 against Houston last year in the Final Four, is it ever? It took Coach K a while. Took Bill Self. Took Roy Williams.
Guys, yeah.
Sometimes it does take a while to ultimately cut down the nets. It's single elimination basketball. Can that pressure ever get to a coach if it becomes a part of your reputation?
Sure, it can. A couple of guys you didn't even mention. Let's talk about Jay Wright, who was talking about that he couldn't win the big one until he won 2 in 3 years.
Yep.
Tony Bennett, at Virginia. They said his slow tempo at Virginia would never win a national championship. Their team becomes the first number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed, and then they bounce back. Don't tell me that Virginia and that Tony Bennett team didn't feel a lot of pressure going into that NCAA tournament. Matt Painter still yet to win a national championship. Mark Few, Kelvin Sampson. So there are a ton of really great high-level coaches that have lost leads. Like, okay, so you mentioned last year with Cooper Flagg, they lose a Final Four game to Houston, double digits. I think they're up 9 points with like 2 minutes to go.
And they 7 with 115. Yep.
7 with 115. Okay, but that's a Houston team, a veteran squad led by Kelvin Sampson, who can also coach. So we put that on John Shire, or do you put it on the fact that like Duke was the younger team going against Kelvin Sampson and Houston? Like, there's so many things that can go right and wrong in these moments. And let's also Duke's made 3 Elite Eights and 1 Final Four in the last 3 years. North Carolina just fired their head coach Hubert Brown because they lack consistency. North Carolina's made 1 national title game. They were ranked 11th. They were an 11 seed in that tournament, so it seemed kind of fluky. And that's why, because Hubert Davis couldn't consistently get his team to perform, North Carolina's looking for a new coach. John Shire, I know the standard at Duke is championship, like Final Four or national championship, or it's a bust. But he is knocking on the door of a national title in his first 4 years. So, but going back to your original question, will the pressure get to him? I think it gets to all of these guys, including the guys I mentioned, Kelvin Sampson, Matt Painter. It gets to all of them. But just like players, you have to put that pressure aside in the moment, do the best you can. But let's remember, again, I'm from a player's perspective. No coach would have had to call a timeout. I don't blame any coach of mine for not calling a timeout in the right moment during a 10-0 run that the opponent went on. I don't blame my coach for that. I look around at our players like, hey, can we guard somebody? Can we get a rebound? That's where I come from.
Well, you also come from a spot because, listen, I know there's a lot of broken-hearted Laker, Yankee, and Duke fans out there, and they're all the same person. And it's just fun when Duke loses. But is there a group chat with you and Leitner and Braylon Mullins? Because this is back in the standard definition days. That's Casey Jacobson hitting a game winner to eliminate Duke from a December basketball game. But still, I'm just wondering if you and Braylon Mullins feel any sort of kindred spirit here, connection.
We definitely, in my mind, I was like, yeah, Braylon, go ahead and stick it to the Dukies. I mean, I'm friends with Jay Williams now, Mike Dunleavy Jr. So watching that happened in the year 2000. It was the 2000-2001 season. We were ranked 3rd in the country at the time. Duke was number 1 in the nation. This was 4 days before Christmas. It was the best Christmas I've ever had. Just that natural high. No, Santa didn't have to bring me any gifts. That buzzer-beating shot against Duke was all I needed to have a good time. Yeah, Duke is easy to hate, but they haven't won a national title in over a decade. So there's, I think, more hate coming towards Dan Hurley and UConn and kind of the way that they act and the way that they win more than Duke nowadays.
Right. Hey, and sports need villains, and Dan Hurley is certainly happy to do it, and that'll be a huge storyline for this Final Four. And it's a pretty loaded Final Four, Casey. I mean, you've got Brad Underwood taking the Fighting Illini back there against, obviously, Dan Hurley trying to go for the dynasty with 3 titles in 4 years. Hasn't been done since John Wooden at UCLA. And then you get one of the great on-paper Final Four matches in the history of the tournament. And Ken Pomeroy in his rankings would say these are 2 of the 5 best teams that we've ever seen, the best Final Four matchup in the history of the tournament. Who do you have cutting down the nets now that the bracket's gotten to where it is?
I've had Michigan from early on this season, and they've shown me no reason to back off of that. Now, Arizona is going to be, as Charles Barkley say, it's going to be a handful. Both teams are incredible. I've worked at Fox. This is my 12th year with Fox, and I am confident in saying that this is the most excited that I have ever been for any singular college basketball game in my 12 years. Michigan versus Arizona. This is must-watch TV. They're similar in size in the front court, and that's really important. I think the reason why Arizona and Michigan have dominated for many big stretches of this season is because they're massive and athletic, and they're physical. Like, there's a lot of teams that are tall, but they're not physical. A lot of teams that are tall, but they're like kind of slow. They have all three. But they have different styles, and that's what makes this really fascinating. Arizona, they're number one in the country when you combine points in the paint and free throws. That's where they want to live. They're like a team version of a sledgehammer. They just want to smack you over the head over and over and over again. They make more free throws in this tournament and the season than their opponents. They make more free throws in the games than their opponents shoot, and that's how they play. They'll take occasional threes, but only when they're wide open. Michigan, on the other hand, is a little more loosey-goosey. They want to run up and down. They will launch threes. They love the threes. Their best player, Yaxel Lindeborg, is really shooting the three really well, a matchup problem for everybody. But Michigan, I would categorize as the more explosive team. Here's the difference to me. Arizona, they can methodically blow you out, meaning piece by piece, they will dismantle you. Like, basically physically, they will take away your will over the course of a 40-minute game. And you'll look up at the scoreboard and you'll be down 25. Michigan will do it in a 5-minute stretch. They'll rip off 17-0 run in what seems like 2.5 minutes. And before you can say mercy, there's a media timeout and the game is over. And so I'm just wondering, can Arizona take away a 12-0, 14-0 run from Michigan? Because when they get rolling, it's hard to shut off their water.
Casey, I agree with you. I think Michigan's the most complete team, but if we're talking about Arizona having a fighting chance, who needs to show up for them to have a solid outing against Michigan?
Oh, Willie, it's an all hands on deck situation when you're going up against Michigan. It's not all one guy. Now, Braden Burry is their freshman. He's their most elite shooter and one-on-one playmaker. But Jaden Bradley, their point guard, senior Big 12 player of the year, they're going to need him to be steady. Going to make the ball's going to be in his hands late in shot clocks. They often give it. He's one of the most clutch players in all of college basketball. So he'll be a decision maker late in games. But a guy that really did not have a good offensive game in the Elite Eight matchup is Mo Krivas. He's probably the most unheralded starting of the starters for Arizona. 7'2", junior. They need him to be a little bit better offensively, touch around the basket. I'm not saying he's got to be Terrace Reed and go for 25, but he's got to be in the 10 to 15 point range because they need some low post scoring against Adai Mara, Morez Johnson, and Lindeborg down low. You can't just think that you're going to get drives and easy buckets in transition. They need a back to the basket center. Koa Pete can get in the middle of the lane, and he's got a really nice turnaround jumper. But Mo Krivas needs to do his job. To me, that's between 10 and 15 points he needs to score in this game.
Well, I picked Michigan before the tournament, so I'm not abandoning it now, given that they're averaging 95 points per game so far in this tournament. And listen, we talk a ton of NFL around here. Casey, I would just say this feels like the NFC Championship game to me. Oh. Where like the NFC Championship game was the real Super Bowl, when it was Seattle and the Rams. Like, obviously, Facts. Illinois or UConn could win. It's single elimination basketball. But it feels to me like the winner of Michigan-Arizona ends up cutting down the nets on Monday. Casey, this was fun, man. Don't be a stranger. Thank you so much, and enjoy what should be a historic Final Four.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you. That's Casey Jacobson, our friend here at Fox. Coming up, Jaden Daniels is making a comeback. We already saw him in flag football. Dan Quinn will join us coming up on the OT.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wrap your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance. Just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
Welcome back to First Things First. The NFL League meetings are taking place right now out in Arizona. Head coaches all sat with the media to address everything that they did in the offseason, looking ahead, and more. So joining us now from Arizona, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn. Dan, thank you so much for joining Willie Colon and myself. We really appreciate it. And listen, a huge story, obviously, with your team is going to be Jaden Daniels' return.
Yep.
But I feel like I already saw him because I watched him play flag football, which, you know, he's running for 2-point conversions. Right. He's catching passes. He threw some passes. He looks good. So I don't know if that's like, it's good to see him look good, or you're nervous with this guy out there, you know, playing receiver. What was it like watching your quarterback and playing flag football?
I think for everybody who knows Jaden, like, this is one of the best competitors that I've ever coached. And so there's no doubt he looks great, and I'm really pumped for him to get rolling with everybody. He is an absolute savage in terms of work and preparation and competing. So, yeah, we're pumped to get rolling with him.
Coach, I know, listen, last year was tough, but you guys, your outfit, man, they fought. I think the people don't talk. I know obviously the record doesn't reflect that, but I turned on the tube, man, and you guys were in it and scrapping and fighting as hard as you could. Obviously, Jaden Daniels goes down. But can you talk about just pretty much the mindset and everything you guys went through last year, and what should we expect from you guys this year?
Yeah, it was super tough, man. And as you go through those fights, Willie, you know this, like, man, you can gain some things in these hard spaces. And the lessons that you want to pull forward into 26, you do that. You leave behind the things, the injuries, et cetera. But, man, when it comes time to, like, building the team again, absolute, you know, like, going for it in every way, that's the beginning of this offseason program coming up. We added some new guys to the crew. But, yeah, you want to pull through those lessons of going through the hard fights together. They don't fully express themselves until you get into these tough spaces again. But guys like McLaurin and Daniels and others that absolutely are down for the fight. There's another one in Samer still. Those are the players that absolutely light me up.
Well, you mentioned the new additions, new coaches come in. Like,
yes.
It's obviously a huge year, tons of expectations for you guys. What's it like to build that all back up in one offseason with, you know, new coordinators on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, and you're right, Danny. That's you know, the change. That's a big deal. You know, that goes through, and with that comes some new systems in terms of how we'd like to go about it, what that would look like from offensive scheme, defensive scheme, and so when those get implemented all through April and May and June, you get a chance to fully develop that. And then, as Willie would say, man, in training camp, you start putting the pieces in the right spot, seeing what you can do. But I do love the competitive makeup of our crew. There is nothing wrong with having a chip on your shoulder and ready to go prove it. And we have a number of guys in that spot. So I'm very much looking forward to getting rolling with everybody.
Coach, you talk about putting it together. How close you guys are from a roster standpoint to getting back into January and going for, fighting for a Lombardi?
Yeah, Adam and the staff did a really good job, Willie, of a number of pieces at different spots. And if you think about the best teams, you've been on some excellent ones you've been a part of, competition at different groups was a big part of that, whether it been an offensive line or tight ends or receiver or D-line, whatever that looked like. You need a big crew to be a heavy hitter in our league. And so adding pieces to that, we're also getting a number of guys back who had some significant injuries in 25. So to add some to the crew, add some back, and with some new scheme, man, like we're really fired up to get rolling.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Jaden Daniels is the biggest guy that you're going to get back. It's tough to evaluate a team when the star quarterback goes down, and we talk a ton of quarterbacks obviously on shows like this. And I said, his rookie year is the most impressive rookie year I'd ever seen. Not just because of the stats. Justin Herbert had a couple more touchdowns, but what he was asked to do. 3rd down, 4th down, playoff wins. Like, I'd put it up there with Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, some of the all-time rookie quarterback seasons. But then in his class, Caleb Williams has all the highlights this year. Drake May ends up in the Super Bowl. Bo Nix has more touchdowns than any of them. I'm wondering, now that's more of a media thing, I get it. You're not comparing him necessarily to those guys. But in terms of ceiling and what he can be compared to his peers, how do you describe Jaden Daniels when you talk about him?
Yeah, I think he's just remarkable. And in this offense, he'll even be under center some more. And so some of the big play passes and shots down the field, he's got a very strong arms, extremely accurate. And then with his ability to create on the run, there's no telling where it's going to go, Danny. We just think this guy's an absolute savage of a competitor. We love what he brings to us as a teammate. And me, as his coach, there's a lot to prove. And like I said, we can't wait to get rolling, man.
Can you talk a little bit more about him as a competitor? Because that's just, guys need to have that to reach their ultimate ceiling, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think that and like what you need to work on. And that was one of the things I was so impressed by with Jaden. When you are developing, what are the areas you want to grow? How do you go about it and have an intentional plan to go do that? We didn't name him as a starter when we drafted him. He went through that process to earn the starting job. And with that comes the respect of proving it. And so that is one of his traits that I think is just elite. He's going to put the work in, early riser, to make sure he knows it inside out. Because before it comes time to practice, like he's ready to get down in the biggest ways. My best example, I'd say, would probably like in his second start. It was a tie game, about to go in a 2-minute scenario, and just you could expect someone in their first 2-minute scenario to be nervous or uptight or whatever you think, coach, and just he had this smile like, let's go do this, Q. And so it was probably early on, and we ended up going down to kick a field goal to win the game. Even if we hadn't have won, I knew he was ready for the moment. Even if we had missed the kick, didn't go, like it wasn't about the result. It was about entering into that drive ready to go compete. And so early on, that was just his second game. And you have to go through struggles. At one point during his rookie year, we had a 3-game losing streak. You got to dig your way out and go fight for it. But he is really resilient. And so that's why going through this before, he's been through some things. I know what it looks like on the other end of that with him.
Coach, you're talking about being competitive, and I know a lot of guys who've played for you and coached for you. You don't give yourself enough credit. When people talk about DQ in the locker room, they speak about you being fiery, and when he speaks, you believe it, and you're ready to go through a wall for him. Going into this year, how motivated are you to get this thing back on track? Because I know a lot of guys I've spoke to behind the curtain, and they're saying, man, it's all hands on deck. This man's fired up and ready to roll, man. Can you speak to what keeps you motivated and stay in the fight and get ready to hunt?
Yeah, I really appreciate that you saying that, because that's why I coach, is to help take the players to the next spot to see what they can become. And it's my job to make sure I enforce those standards from the staff through the coaches and play in a style and an attitude that, man, when people watch us play, they say, I love how they get down. And so, yeah, there's a lot to prove. And some of the best, most competitive moments in my coaching career have come from prove it. And so I love being in that space. I love having to, take on that mindset and attitude. And so me and a bunch of others in our locker room are very much looking forward to doing that, Willie.
So, Coach, I'm a Chicago guy, and I absolutely loved this year that Ben Johnson, he's like, I don't like Matt LaFleur. And like Bears and Packers, they should not like each other. I think that less hate in the world, more hate in sports. I call it sports hate. You're in the NFC East.
That's fair, Danny. That's fair. Yeah, I would say that if we could channel it to a certain spot against rivals, that would be cool.
Right. Well, so you're in the NFC East. Great rivalries. You and the Eagles kind of going back and forth. They're running up the score, going for two late. Like, do you subscribe to that in terms of sports hate in the NFC East and being a part of that?
I don't know if it's sport hate, but I grew up in the East Coast. And so for me, kind of growing up, into this spot, I like guys that have one another's back. So if you take on me, you get all of us. And so I like that attitude. And so none of us want this, like we're ejections and fights, but I do want to know if it was late in a dark alley, I'd want somebody like Willie Colon right with me to say, hey, if this is going to go sideways, I want people, in my corner that are ready to get down. So I think as much as it's not one team, it's us against. And if you have that mentality and the chemistry's right, it doesn't have to be against one opponent. It just has to be, this is how we get down. And I'm hopeful that that style can come across, and that when you play the Commanders on Monday, like you're sore. And Willie was a part of a team like that you played some of the teams that he was a part of. So, okay, it's going to be a real deal.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. Good luck this year. We really appreciate you joining us here on the OT. Don't be a stranger.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Get after it.
You got my back.
The light.
In a dark alley.
I got you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I can know that happen to you.
I can be a little soft.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
To the NFL.
That was wow.
NFL league meetings today in Arizona. Coaches across the league spoke to the media, and Matt LaFleur of the Packers was asked about the decisions that went into keeping a large part of his offensive staff the same. Take a listen to the Packers coach.
You're always evaluating and trying to make the decisions that are best for your football team, at least what you believe are going to be best for your football team. That's you always look at ways that you can improve, and I thought the best way for us to move forward is we gotta strip everything down and start like it's year one all over again.
So continuity on the coaching staff. Obviously, every roster undergoes changes, Willie. But do you think the Packers have enough to get over the hump this year?
Well, I think they have enough talent to matter. The issue is can they hold up until Michael Parsons gets back, right? You let go of Rashawn Gary. You've lost some pieces on the defense as a whole, but nevertheless, man, you're looking at a Packer team that seems to always be in the fight but never get over the hump. And you talk about a division as a whole, the Bears, I think, are going to be better. Detroit's going to be a lot hungrier. You talk about the Vikings and with the addition of Kyler Murray and what they could look like. So if you're Green Bay, man, under Matt LaFleur, you're looking at 7 years of just being at the gate, can never get in the club.
I've been there.
Right. So, tearing it down, we have to see if he's even capable of that because, some of their deficiencies has been under his watch. And him building a roster up and him kind of building this thing up, they just can never get over the hump. So we'll see, but it's going to be a lot to watch.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur's got a weird coaching record because everyone agrees he's a great offensive coach. You got Aaron Rodgers, a couple of MVPs. Jordan Love is ready-made. He's got, the blowout playoff win over the Cowboys.
Correct.
But a couple of times he's in the playoffs only as the 7th seed, where it's like, well, if the playoffs hadn't expanded, you wouldn't have even been in.
Sure.
And then how would we have looked at his resume? I think the case for Packers optimism, I know there's like a growing sentiment of people that have a lot of pessimism about them right now, but I'll put that aside for a second. Like, if you looked at what they did when they had Micah,
right? Because
it was a large body of work. Like when the Packers had Micah Parsons through Week 14, they were, top 5, top 7 team in football. That's the yards against, the points against, the point differential, the win-loss record.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were a contender.
They were dangerous.
And I was skeptical because of Jordan Love and inconsistency and things like that. But assuming Micah comes back to be Micah Parsons, I think a lot of those injuries, we know Elgton Jenkins' name. We know Rashawn Gary's name. But they didn't lose players. They lost players approaching 30 or on the wrong side of 30. I don't know that the departures that they had. Now, Romeo Doubs.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He was big in the red zone for them.
Yep.
Right.
Jeff Hafley as a defensive coordinator. There are questions there, but the core of the team should still be a diversified offensive attack, turnovers, Xavier McKinney, Micah Parsons. Hopefully Van Ness plays more for them.
Right.
They had a lot of guys who got injured last year who should be healthier this year, that I do think that there's a totally reasonable path for optimism.
Well, I think there's also a question with the culture, especially with the chemistry in the locker room. A lot of those guys
that was a big story.
Right. A lot of guys didn't understand their role, questioning, where they sat with the team and on and on and on. And nevertheless, man, that comes down on him, right? One thing as a head coach, you have to be able to have a pulse on the locker room, on and off the field. And when guys are questioning your leadership and where this thing is going and who's in charge, and nevertheless what the plan is, in reference to, being prepared for Sunday, that's an issue. So they're going to have to figure that out. Hopefully they can. I sit up here and defended Mike Tomlin, right? So I noticed. I can't be hypocritical against Matt LaFleur. I believe the Packers got to give him another shot.
But they're going with the continuity argument, which Steelers fans certainly know well. Sure. So let's go to Philadelphia. It's in Willie's contract. We have to talk about A.J. Brown.
Have to.
At least once a week. According to NBC Philadelphia, Howie Roseman met with the media yesterday, answered every question regarding A.J. Brown with, quote, A.J. is an Eagle. Head coach Nick Sirianni took note of that ahead of today's owners meeting, staying on message. Here's Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, everything, nothing's changed there. AJ's an Eagle. Nothing's changed from the last time I spoke to you guys. And yeah, that's where we are.
Willie?
You know why we laugh, America? Because we've been on this hamster wheel.
Well, you know why?
Week after week about A.J. Brown.
That's right. Well, bad job by me, Troy. I should have suggested my graphic for this, because we don't have one, just being a calendar.
Pretty much.
It's just like, is it June? No. Then it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because, AJ is an Eagle is a technical answer. Like, it is technically correct. It is. He is under contract.
But he's not going anywhere. Can we establish that? Or is that
we disagree?
So I don't think
you think June 15th he's an Eagle?
It doesn't make sense for the Eagles to let go of A.J. Brown when you just hired an offensive coordinator who's never called plays, right?
Yeah.
And you take away a weapon, a dangerous alpha weapon like
He is that.
from your roster,
right?
To leave a guy who's never been in this position before. Like, he needs all the weaponry he can at his disposal, rather. So I'm sitting here saying, like, A.J. Brown had, 78 catches, he had over 1,000 yards. He's still a problem. And the reason Devontae Smith was a problem because A.J. Brown was a problem. And the reason why Dallas Goedert was a problem because A.J. Brown makes the Eagles dangerous. And you already have a bad offensive line. You need all hands on deck, and you need this offense to get back on track.
I don't know that you could put the toothpaste back in the tube here. Like, I think.
In what way?
I think that the league knows that the reason they haven't traded A.J. Brown is because of the contract hit it would take to trade him before June 1st.
So there's a $40 million
Yeah, and it gets a lot easier post June 1. And so, like, in a vacuum, you're of course correct. We've agreed on A.J. Brown, the football player, every time we've talked about him. He's a top 10 receiver in football, and the message that he gave out about Eagles' frustration was he was just the messenger. Like, the things he was saying was true. Did he sometimes say it, like, on Madden Twitch streams in ways that you wouldn't love, like in the locker room? Sure. But, like, he's an awesome player, but if he's a little bit of a distraction and he's a bit of money and you have to get something for him, the OC's not going to want him gone. Maybe Devontae Smith's not going to want him gone. But Howie Roseman is, I think, going to move him for cap space and draft capital.
At the end of the day, you looking at a division, we just said here with DQ, everybody's gearing up. Like, I don't think you can look at this division and say, all right, they're a definite winner. I don't look at the Eagles as a definite winner right now. No. So if that's the story right now, you have to figure out, man, we got to get to a point where we can get back to being dangerous. You can't get dangerous without A.J. Brown, despite what the money looks like.
If you trade A.J. Brown for a draft pick, you are worse for this year. There's no denying it.
Period.
I agree. Okay. I still think they're going to do it.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
Mike Hill, Dontrell Willis inside our LA studios here on FS1, getting you ready for baseball doubleheader. Baseball is underway. We got 2 National League games starting off with the Pirates and the Reds. Dontrell and I will have a 30-minute pregame show right after First Things First. Stick around.
Thanks, Mike and Dontrell. We'll see you guys at the top of the hour. All right, so the UFL season opened this weekend, and we are giving you some of our favorite plays coming out of week 1, and there were honestly some great ones here. We began with the Birmingham Stallions. Running back Snoop Connor dives into the end zone.
Get some!
For the first points of the season.
Yeah!
Got to celebrate football being back and Connor going to the end zone. And as much as we celebrated it, Willie, you might remember this name.
What's that?
A.J. McCarron.
Oh!
The coach of the Stallions. He was very pumped about it.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was going nuts. But, like, extending for the pilot. Look at him.
There you go.
Had a little
passion in the spring.
Little let's go. And the cool thing with the UFL broadcast, they're all mic'd up. So,
wow.
You know what I mean? So you can just, you see and hear it, a lot of good sounds.
I don't think I could ever be mic'd up. There's a reason they never put a mic on Willie Colon.
Yeah, no. FCC would have happened there. All right, let's go to Louisville here. Louisville Kings cornerback Eric Garror. You'll like this one, Willie.
Bam!
Bam!
Man!
That was a big noise that you made there.
Did I scare the crowd?
You scared me a little bit. Yeah, I was going to go for the big noise, and then you check-raised my noise.
So this was a big thing because they had the drone going overhead. So we got a great shot of him after he gets split in half.
Yeah.
Hello, Mom.
Yeah, there's really no angle where that looks comfortable.
That's Matt Corral, by the way.
Yeah.
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You don't think I'm in my bag today, DP?
Yeah, okay.
I'm feeling me. I'm
All
in
right,
my bag.
My bad. Okay. I apologize. I was focused on the hit. You're focused on the
Pass
quarterback
the rock.
who got split up. All right, Orlando Storm receiver Chris Rowland here. Dive and catch. Early catch of the year candidate.
Ooh.
The toe tap.
That's
not catch of the year,
I mean,
but
that's
it's a good
standard compared to,
some of the things we see.
Yes.
It's getting easier to catch.
We're used to the one-hand grab. That's elementary there, DP.
Is it even hard to be a receiver anymore with the sticky gloves? I don't know. People are asking.
You go, I got Anthony Beck. We had him on the show.
That's true. All right, I want to show you a little bit of history, Willie. This is my favorite thing about the UFL. They try things, okay?
Okay.
DC defender kicker Matt McCrane. First ever 4-point field goal.
Look at that.
If you kick from more than 60, counts for 4. You don't see the 4-0 score every day of the week.
Not at all.
But if you kick it from longer than 60 yards, 3-point.
So you're saying this is a thing? This could be a thing for the NFL?
I think that a lot of the things that the UFL is trying could and one day should be a thing for the NFL. Now listen, this is not my favorite of the UFL rules because I don't like things that add emphasis for kickers. Like I want the uprights narrowed. I want fewer kicks in my football, not more. But like my favorite UFL rule, if you want to, instead of an onside kick, 4th and 12.
So if you're Brandon Aubrey, you're kind of drooling at this.
Brandon Aubrey.
This is how you get the bag if you're Brandon Aubrey.
Brandon Aubrey, an alum of the UFL.
Look at that.
Yeah. I'm in my bag today.
Bag, DP.
Yeah. You think you're the only one who's got a bag around here? You got to wake up pretty early to get one past your boy.